story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for giving advice that resulted in my friend divorcing his wife?" Throwaway because my main account is known to people in the post. Last in October, a guy showed up at my friend's house claiming he was the father of friend's 8-year-old and that he got friend's wife pregnant in an affair but ran off and broke contact. Hal broke loose on the guy first, but seeing how the wife was acting suspicious, he confronted her where she admitted to the cheating but claimed the child was my friend's. Friend got a paternity test done and found out that he is not the father. He was hurt and depressed. He left his house and stayed at a room away to think about the situation. His wife reached out to all our common friends and they all asked him to forgive the wife and move on. Friend was feeling complicated. His thoughts kept revolving around the 8-year-old. The divorce law in my area says that infidelity is grounds for divorce, but it is the father's responsibility to make sure his kids are secure financially. But if the father can prove that the wife committed paternity fraud, he gets out easy. Any lawyer could take this case and win. Due to his conflicting feelings, he had a massive breakdown. The wife and child also showed up to his place and caused a scene, asking for forgiveness and for daddy to come back. I usually stayed and listened to what he was feeling and saying, not giving any of my input till after the last time wife and child showed up. He said he wanted to know what to do. I tried to avoid adding my answer in any way and said there are no right answers and that he should do what makes him happy and mentally healthy. He kept on pressing me for a more direct answer and well, seeing how desperate he was for an answer, I told him that I would leave my wife in such a case without regret. She can manage her child on her own. I would do that because I know how cold I can get. Friend is my polar opposite. He literally does not hurt a fly. But this was just a hypothetical scenario and that the one experiencing this case in real life should look for his answer, not my hypothetical response. This happened in April this year. Mid-July, my friend finally divorced his wife and she moved out. He made a Facebook post thanking me for giving him advice that made him resolve to leave fake happiness for his own selfish happiness. The ex-wife called me a monster for destroying their happiness. Most of our friends and my wife are livid because they said I broke up their marriage. Wife is angry because my advice caused him to abandon his, not his, child. That the child has lost the person they knew as their father. I am pretty sure I was clear about what I said and that it was not advice. But if he followed that part, then I am not blaming him for what he did. Friends and wife still think I am the a-hole because there could have been better ways to handle the situation. So guys, am I the a-hole? Now let's read the top comments. Not the a-hole. And I feel a little like I'm taking crazy pills because you are considering taking even 1% of the blame for this. The ex-wife destroyed her own marriage by cheating and having someone else's baby. End of story. Not the a-hole. I agree this is the wife's fault, not yours. My friend once told me you could either forgive and try to forget, but it will always be in the back of your mind. And it's the same for you, friend. No matter how nice of a person he is, the hurt will always be there. He can try to forget, but trust me, you never do. He did the right thing for himself. He just needed to hear it from someone else is all. Lol, mate. Based on your wife's reaction, if you have kids, I reckon you should get a paternity test. Seriously, is there some kind of conspiracy in your neighborhood where all the wives are having affairs and having kids with men other than their husband? Because I can think of no other reason why everything would tell your mate that staying with a woman who committed adultery, lied about it for presumably 9 years or more, and allowed him to raise a kid he didn't know wasn't his, is a good idea. F those guys, not the a-hole. Wife is angry because my advice caused him to abandon his, not his, child. Why does this imply that the wife isn't faithful? Regardless of your stance in this, it's a crappy situation for the child. To them, they lost their father. And frankly, it was crappy advice and behavior on OP's friend's part in the first place. I couldn't imagine raising a kid for 8 years only to abandon them nor suggesting it to a friend. OP is still not the a-hole because it was ultimately his friend's decision, but being sympathetic towards the kid's situation doesn't mean you're a cheater. Not the a-hole. Well, everyone is an a-hole, even the friend, for their actions here, except for you and the kid. The kid is a victim in all of this. You kept your mouth shut and then you were pressed for answers and you said what you would do. Friend took advice and then blasted you all over Facebook. Not cool. That was highly inappropriate. Friend is an a-hole. Wife is an a-hole for cheating and then lying about a kid. Friends are a-holes because they think cheating can be just brushed off and he should just raise another dude's kid anyway. Sounds like a prison sentence to me, knowing I am living with a lying wife who couldn't stay faithful. I would forever wonder if she was cheating or not. Not the a-hole. Kid is not the a-hole. Everyone else is. Now for the second story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my ex's son meet my daughter? They're half-siblings. My ex, Rob, and I, 28 female, were together for just under a year. 3 months after we broke up, I found out that I was about 4 months pregnant. I told Rob, but he was seeing someone else at that stage, and she didn't want him involved with the baby because me and the baby were kind of a package deal. Rob refused to do any baby stuff, including paternity test or signing the birth certificate, and went as far as to tell people I cheated on him so that no one would expect him to step up. Our child is now 8 and has met Rob once, about a year ago in a supermarket when we bumped into each other, and I introduced them. Rob had a toddler with him and his wife. Skip ahead to now, Rob and wife have reached out to me. They have apparently been trying for a second child for years with no luck. So now, Rob wants to be in our daughter's life so their child is not an only child and he can experience having multiple children. Edit for info. Rob has told me that the wife has had a string of medical issues post-birth and physically cannot have another child, ever, under any circumstances. Here's the thing. It's been 8 years. I've met someone new, married him, and he's adopted our daughter. My daughter knows about Rob, but she views my husband as her father because he's the one who has been a dad to her consistently for her entire life and has no interest in seeing/meeting Rob. We've also had another 2 kids, ages 4 and 2. Because of the adoption, Rob can no longer claim parental rights. I've said that Rob doesn't get to just show up when it's convenient for him, and he can claim to be a dad to our daughter when he has massively dropped the ball in the whole 8 years he could have been raising her, and that my daughter isn't a consolation prize. However, now I've said that, basically everyone but my husband has told me I'm in the wrong. Even my own parents have sided with Rob, saying that my daughter should know her entire family, and that the only people I'm punishing here are my daughter and Rob's son, who are innocent parties in all of this. Am I the a-hole for not being willing to facilitate a relationship between my child and her half-sibling? That's the main story. Now let's read the top comments. Not the a-hole. He refused all parental rights. Simple as that. Jumping on the top comment so OP sees this. What happens if the wife has a surprise second pregnancy? They'll drop your daughter back in the cold again. Also, what's in it for your daughter? How can the disruption to her life be justified? She already has a father and siblings now. There's really nothing this is bringing her. Not the a-hole. You're doing your job, which is protecting your child. He ignored her because it's what his wife wanted. Now he's reaching out because it's what his wife wants. Huge red flag. I would do the same as you. You don't get to parent when it's convenient. She has a dad, and it isn't him. I totally forgot that both instances, to have a daughter or not to have a daughter, were instigated by the ex's wife. This makes the not the a-hole even more so. She views my husband as her father because he's the one who has been a dad to her consistently for her entire life and has no interest in seeing/meeting Rob. This is all that matters. You don't owe them anything. Your daughter is not plan B. This could confuse her and cause needless anxiety. I went through something similar when my siblings pressured me to have a relationship with my dad and half-sister after years of no contact. I hated it, and it didn't turn out well. Not saying this will, but if she doesn't want it, she doesn't owe him anything. Not the a-hole. They both are huge a-holes. Definitely not the a-hole, and I hope OP tells anyone else saying different to F all the way off too, because they're a-holes for not siding with what's actually in the kid's best interest. And now for the final story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to fight for legal custody of my ex-husband's daughter, who has only known me as a mother figure? To make things clear, I didn't marry my husband and willingly became a step-parent to his daughter. I married my husband when we were both 21, and we had our daughter when we were 25. 2 years later, my husband began an affair with his terminally ill co-worker. Note, she wasn't terminally ill when they started the affair. An affair that ended with her death. We were separated, and he moved in with her when she got pregnant. In her second trimester, she received her terminal diagnosis and was given a few months to live. She made it through birth and passed away when her daughter was 3 months old. I was brought up by my religious mother who didn't believe in divorce and inspired me to fight for our marriage, so I did. He moved back into our marital home with his daughter, and I accepted her as his daughter. Religious brainwashing made me unable to make rational decisions. Our marriage improved. I even got pregnant with the baby boy last year, but later had a termination, which I passed off as a miscarriage. Yes, I know this was horrible. But with determination came the realization that reconciliation was a big mistake, and that at 34, I don't want to waste my last fertile years being in a wrong relationship. So I started planning my exit, and now we are legally separated. I have a pretty good relationship with his daughter, who is 6. My daughter adores her little sister, and I love their bond. However, I never intended to take on her mother's role when I reconciled with my husband. I wasn't a disengaged figure in her life, but no, I didn't think of myself as her mother. I cooked, cleaned, and looked after her when she was sick, but never disciplined her myself. She is close to her maternal grandparents, his mistress' parents, who have always thanked me for accepting her. Last night, my husband and I were discussing visitation, and he asked whether I had a room for his daughter in my new apartment. I got confused and asked what he meant. Apparently, he was under the assumption that I would also take his daughter during my time. I clarified that my apartment did have an extra room, but that room was meant for my boyfriend's daughter, who is around my daughter's age and they are good friends. Although we don't have plans of moving in together anytime soon, I want to have a room for his daughter because he also has a room for my daughter at his place. I told him that I wasn't going to claim legal custody of his daughter. He now thinks I'm breaking her heart because she thinks she will live with me part-time like her older sister. And no, she doesn't call me mom. To her, I'm my name. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but man, that whole situation is rough. You might try weaning down visits versus a clean break to make it an easier transition for her, but woo, that's gonna be tough either way. Good luck to you. Pretty sure that ship has sailed. She has a new boyfriend with a kid who has a room at her place. And, in my experience, kids that young do better with clean breaks. Drawing it out is super confusing and draws more attention to the issue. Source: Mom with an ex who is completely missing in action, and an ex-boyfriend who I almost married. And our families, his kids/my kids, were super close for years. When I left my ex-husband, it meant not seeing his 7-year-old son anymore. We'd been together since he was 18 months old, but honestly, weren't that close. One of these issues that led to divorce was him never spending time with his son, but letting his parents raise him. This honestly makes me feel so much better, as leaving meant a clean break for me, and my ex made me feel so awful for not talking to his son. I didn't know what to say. Sorry, your dad is abusive. Not the a-hole. There have been a lot of threads about kids resulting from affairs and people trying to claim or disclaim parenthood. Your ex's daughter knows you are not her mom. You owe her and your ex nothing. The kid is his responsibility. He's the one who had the affair and who created a kid. You had nothing to do with it. Wash your hands of it and live your best life. How does she know Opie is not her mom? Bio mom died when the child was 3 months old. I think this is a tough situation because Opie consciously made the decision to take X back and include a daughter in their family life. I totally understand how hard it would be for Opie to see this child as a constant reminder of her past trauma, but at the same time, this is a little girl who's having her family ripped apart. I think this one is beyond am I the a-hole. Opie said the kid calls Opie by her name, not as mom. And that's the end of the video, folks. Leave your comments below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe.